How could I be happier? How can I be less hard on myself? How could I stop judging and blaming myself for everything that goes wrong in my life? Well, it sounds like it's time for you to do some shadow work, bestie. Do what? How? By now, I believe you must have at least heard about the term shadow work, and that may be why you ended up on this video. Now, you may have questions in your head like, what is shadow work? Why is it important? How to do it? Is shadow work demonic or witchcraft? Does it mean I have to do more healing? Well, you don't have to look any farther, because by the end of this video, you're gonna have the answer to all of your questions. Also, I got a gift waiting for you, so make sure you stay until the end of this video. This is shadow work for beginners one-on-one, baby. Question number 1. What is shadow work? The person who came up with the concept of shadow work is Carl Jung, who's actually a psychoanalyst. Basically, he's referring to our unconscious and hidden part of our personality as the shadow. And the reason why he calls it the shadow is because when you're walking down the streets, even though your shadow might be reflecting on things as you're walking by, places, grass, trees, walls, it's something that you don't really pay attention to or you don't really focus on. So it's that part of you that is being unrecognized and hidden. So doing shadow work is essentially healing and understanding your subconscious behaviors, traumas, and more. Also, he believes that this shadow part of us is actually born in our childhood. Let's use an example. Let's say we have a kid named Lily, and Lily is 10 years old. A little bit of the background: she lives in a very stable, loving, nurturing family. She's the only child, so she receives a lot of attention and care from her parents. So you would say that her childhood environment is generally really happy and positive. Despite the fact that she had a very idyllic upbringing, there is a shadow aspect to Lily's personality that is a result of her parents being overprotective about her and having high expectations. One was the fact that she lacked independence. Lily's parents were so protective about her that they rarely allowed her to make her own decisions and face the consequence of her actions. This lack of independence caused her to not develop self-reliance and problem-solving skills. Another one was her having low self-esteem. Because of her parents holding high expectations of her, despite of her achievements, Lily actually struggled with low self-esteem and often doubted her ability, and she felt that she's only as good as her last success. So basically, she tied her own self-worth based on her accomplishments and achievements. If she couldn't achieve something, if she would fail, then she would think she's not worthy or she's not worthy enough. She also was dealing with suppressed emotions. Because her parents wanted her to be the perfect kid and be polite and have manners, she often had to suppress any feelings that had to do with anger, sadness, or frustration. Maybe after hearing these examples, you would think to yourself, oh, damn, like that actually sounds like me a little bit. That makes me think of myself a little bit. And while that may be the case, at least now you have a better understanding of what is the problem and what can you work on. Now, why is it important? I mean, what surprises me is the fact that a lot of times we try to hide this part of ourselves and we try to suppress our emotions, and then we expect to live a calm, peaceful life and reach our full potential. But how though? If you have a part of us that is dying for our attention, that feels ignored and left out, how would that be possible? It won't be. And this is why it's so important and crucial for us to work on this part of us and figure out where does these triggers and toxic habits and patterns come from, so we can replace those with better and positive one, which is necessary and crucial for our growth and being able to change and become a better person. Before I get to the how, hey you, if it's your first time here, I'm Dee. Welcome to my channel. I make videos that are committed to help women become the director of their own lives. So if that sounds like you, make sure to tag along the journey. And now you might be asking, how can we do shadow work, Dee? First thing I want you to understand is that because this shadow part of us is something we're ashamed of, our ego actually suppresses it and tries to hide it as much as possible, especially when we're doing good and we're feeling good and we're happy. But as soon as life comes full force at us and we're in tough situations, we're not going to be able to hide it anymore. And that's when these things and emotions show up stronger than ever. Sometimes they show up in our lives in different ways. For example, triggers, which is basically things that imposes a strong emotional reaction to a person, a situation, an environment, or a topic. I know for a fact that there's certain things that happen in my relationship, and at the time, it really triggered me and I didn't want to deal with it, and I wanted to just avoid that situation at all costs. But then later on, when I came to it, I would think of it and I would realize that, wow, this is something that has actually happened back in my childhood, and I'm still carrying that with me. And up until I don't actually solve this, I may actually carry it on with me forever. Another way that it can show up in our life is patterns. These patterns could be bad habits or negative cycles that keep showing up in your life. So let's say something bad was to happen in your life and you right away go to your room, lock your door, and you start crying, and then you get paralyzed to a point where you cannot take any further action. This actually can sabotage your success. Another way of these shadow side of us showing up in our life is projections. And this is basically how you show up in the words, the mask that you put on your face when you're with other people. I'm going to use an example. Let's say we have two people named Alex and Sarah. Alex and Sarah are friends. They've been friends for a long time. They have a very good friendship, very good connection, and all is well. And one day, Sarah gets a promotion and she's very, very excited about this promotion. So she comes and she tells Alex about it. And she tells him how she's happy and she was waiting for this and all these things. Meanwhile, Alex can actually have this shadow part of him that would make him feel jealous and some sort of competitiveness towards Sarah. And he might not even show it, but at the same time, it's something that can actually affect the way she's receiving the message Sarah is giving him. So if Alex has this tendency to be jealous and competitive, he might think that Sarah is trying to rub off her success to his face. But that may not be even the case. Sarah is just simply sharing one of her wins with one of her best friends, one of her close friends, thinking that that friend would be happy for her. And sometimes we may think that we're good at hiding it, but it may actually give off a signal to the other person, and it might sense a difference and a change in us once we receive that message from them. So you want to be careful with this. Yes, triggers, patterns, and projections are real, but there's a way that you can work through them. There's a way that you can improve this and become a better person. Now we get to what are some of the ways that you can do shadow work. Number one, you can use dedicated journals or shadow work prompts. This actually helps you uncover the wounds that you may have about certain memories and you may be still carrying it with yourself and so on. Number two, meditate. And when you're meditating, imagine your inner child. Imagine you talking to them and identifying those emotional wounds that they may have. And what are those emotional needs that still showing up in your today's life. You can also do mirror gazing. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. You can do affirmations. I'm pretty sure you've heard of affirmations already. And you can also do reflective type of prompts that helps you track your triggers and patterns in your life. And the third one is the alchemy method, which essentially what it means is you accepting yourself as a whole. You accepting yourself with all the imperfection and all of your flaws. It's you reframing those old belief systems you have. It's you building new patterns and habits based on whatever your inner child needs. So let's say, for example, if you feel like you're always feeling not loved and unseen, maybe you give yourself more attention. Maybe you give yourself more of that love that you need. Maybe you give yourself more of that care. A lot of times we think that other people need to do it for us to make us feel better. Eventually we'll come to realize that it's actually you. You are lacking your own love for you. Now let's get to the question, is shadow work demonic? No. It has nothing to do with witchcraft or being demonic. It's actually a psychological and spiritual practice that is meant to help with self-awareness, self-confidence, personal development, and growth. It's basically a process to explore and integrate hidden parts of one person's personality and those suppressed emotions and feelings. It's actually a tool that has been proven to help with personal growth, because by confronting and working through these shadow aspects of yours, you actually would experience greater, bigger emotional freedom. You would have increased self-confidence, and your relationship with others could also improve. Next, does this mean I have more healing to do? You may even think at this point that, oh, so then I have to do more healing for me to get rid of these shadows and improve myself. But I actually came across a video the other day, and I love the way she explains this concept So let's watch it together.
Shadow work is not about healing yourself. I want to clear this up because so many people misunderstand what shadow work is. They believe that they have a dark side that they need to heal. Shadow work is integration, which means the dark parts of you, you don't need to heal them, you need to love them. All those things that you've been criticized for, or maybe you even criticized yourself for, you need to love and accept those parts. When you love something, you put light on that, it loses its power. Doesn't mean it goes away, but it doesn't have power over you anymore. When I was little, I was very expressive, but I was labeled as dramatic. That became my shadow, oversensitive and dramatic. I hated that part of me, so I suppressed it and I judged other people for being dramatic. When I started shadow work, I learned to understand that I was not dramatic, I was passionate. I was not oversensitive. I was just living human emotions. When you deny something of yourself, it doesn't go away. It just gets hidden in your subconscious. And you're usually pretty good at suppressing those things on good days, but when you're having aches and pains or a day that you don't feel too good, all those shadow parts are going to come out in full force. And chances are, because you do not see them in yourself, you are going to recognize them in others, which is self-projection. So if you're constantly trying to fix others, or you're attracting people that are constantly trying to fix you, it's because you don't love and accept all of you. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to love yourself. All the light and the darkness.
So what she really means is that you don't have to actually ignore it or get rid of it. It's about you accepting it and loving that part of you. And when you do, it actually loses power over you. And now, finally, it's time for the gift. So I know when it comes to doing shadow work, it's something that, it's not easy, especially if you're doing it on your own. So what I've done is I've actually created shadow work prompt for you, and you can find the link to this in the description. You can use these questions to ask yourself and try to uncover that hidden part of you and those truths that you're holding on to about yourself. Something to keep in mind when you're going through these questions is to not focus on the fact that if it's true and accurate type of question, but if a part of you actually believes it's true. I really would love to know what is one thing that you learned from today's video that you find the most helpful. Please let me know in the comments. And don't forget to join our Discord community, because ladies actually need your help to help me make this community as big as it can get. I love you lots. Until later, bye.
Don't tell me I'm the only one that you love. Life could be a dream.